Welcome back to another episode of The Hardcore Casual with your boy, Bass the Kid. As always, as I say, please like and subscribe, share with a friend, a colleague, a relative, an associate, anyone in between, even an enemy. I don't care, it's all good, and I appreciate each and every view that comes through. Now, as you know, it wasn't a huge amount of action this weekend. If anything, you could say it was very limited compared to recent schedules. So rather than do a weekend wrap, I'm just going to talk about that stuff in and amongst a few other bits and pieces that happened. There was a couple other videos I did want to do this week, but I had some very young family members staying around, and yeah, the chance to try and get 30 minutes here and there to do the content wasn't happening, especially not during the day. So, you know, we save it for the weekend and we see what we got to talk about. There's two things that I want to say, so, you know, let's get into it. Okay, so first things first, the action from last night. Disclaimer, I haven't had a chance to watch both the fights in full because I want to look at Xander Zayas and also Teofimo's ring return. I saw the last round of Teo's fight, so I need to wait for it to come back on Sky again this afternoon. I've actually got it set to record, so I'm going to watch that. From what I saw, he looked fairly confident. He was, you know, he broke down Camper pretty well, sort of with that. It would look like a check right, and then sort of a jab, power jab afterwards, which put him on the canvas. He started sort of showboating as well. He was angling off quite a bit. He was switching in as well, which I'm not really a fan of from him, from what I saw. But again, I haven't seen the entire fight, so I'm gonna have to reserve judgment, and you can get my thoughts on that on the breakdown on the Undefeated channel. But yeah, it looked alright from what I saw, and at least he's back now, so you know, we can start talking about him facing, you know, sort of other top-notch contenders or fringe level contenders at 140 and sort of see where he goes from there. So the Takeover 2.0 is now in effect, and let's see how far he gets with this one, seeing as he didn't quite finish the last one. But yeah, in regards to the Xander Zayas fight, I haven't seen that one either, but that's going to be on the roster later on. So again, if you want to see my thoughts on that, check out the breakdown on Tuesday at 8 p.m. on the Undefeated podcast channel. So on Friday, we had the first press conference for Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn. Tickets sold out immediately on Thursday on the O2 priority. Then on Friday on the AXS and Matchroom, what they call it, Fight Club, sold out instantaneously there as well. Then Saturday general sale sold out. Now, to be honest, I think everyone kind of knew this was going to happen. It's at the O2, so it's only like 20,000 tickets ultimately that you can get, and you know, it appears that StubHub was in full effect again. The ticket touts, you know, they had the bots on lock. I'm sure there was a lot of bots that ended up grabbing those tickets, and so yeah, if you did manage to get one first off, I mean, congrats to you. I didn't get one. I might have to holler someone for press accreditations, or I might just stay home and watch it. Sometimes I don't want to work on sometimes, you know, you just want to watch a fight just for the sake of the entertainment rather than having to do some analysis or whatnot. So we'll see. I mean, I'm at an event 2 weeks before that, I'm at an event 4 weeks before that, so I'll find out. It depends how I feel near the time, but I'll speak to a few people and see what they're saying. That being said, let's talk about press conference. Press conference was highly entertaining. It wasn't as fiery as maybe it could have been. If you notice, Conor isn't really as fiery as he used to be. Like a year, 2 years ago, I think that before the birth of his child, he was a lot more fiery. I think his child's actually mellowed him down a little bit. He's still emotional, still kind of wears his heart on his sleeve, but he's just not. He doesn't bite as instantaneously as he used to, and he doesn't get as sort of loud and intense. But Chris Eubank Jr. to me done a number on Conor in that press conference. Like, he's in Conor's head, he's under his skin. and he does that very well with pretty much anyone because it's the dismissiveness. To be fair, I've been that way before. When you dismiss what someone else is doing, like, it winds them up even more, because it feels like, well, hold on, who are you to like discount me, discredit me, dismiss what I'm doing? And a lot of managers that work in places, like, they're very good at getting under their employees' skin, like making them feel like they got something to prove by dismissing some of their targets and achievements. Like, well, yeah, it was okay, but like, I know that you can do better than that. And it's like, well, what do you mean I can do better? Like, and then you get it in your head, and all of a sudden it escalates and it builds up. So yeah, he just played this. He said, look, and you know what? One thing I want to say, right, about Chris Eubank Jr. in this mind, and obviously some people are going to look at it saying, oh, his excuses or whatnot, but I'm actually refreshed to hear someone say, I'm not going to be at 100% in the ring. Because everyone says, oh yeah, I'm going to be 100%, or I had the best camp ever, things have gone perfect, there's no little niggling injuries, I'm good. And then you hear something afterwards and it's like, yeah, well, this happened, that happened. And it's like, sometimes it's better to know that at the start. Yeah, like, you know, this happened in camp, I had a little knock, like, you know, I hurt my hand a little bit in there, but you know, this is the price you pay. You got to do what you got to do, so get in there. And ultimately saying, look, I'm gonna be about 60%, but 60% is still good enough to deal with you. Like, if I was 100%, this would be a public execution. And you know, Conor's laughing, but I can kind of see where Chris is at. He's like, look, there has to be give and take somewhere. I've given you those £3. I've given you a rehydration clause, so that I can't even fully try and get back to where I should be, because if I'm there, like, you have absolutely no chance at all in any capacity in this fight. And if anything, you probably get brutally hurt. I mean, that's them big talks there. And obviously, like, so that's kind of just like, no, you're really underestimating me. You really think I ain't got a chance in this? Like, you're crazy, but he's in Conor's head. The dismissive nature is very impressive, and I have to say that right now, like, Eubank is ahead. But we also know that talking means nothing until, you know, you get in the ring and you back up the talk. And there's been many times where Chris Eubank hasn't backed up the talk. It was also quite interesting that Kayle Sauerland basically was like, oh, you said you was gonna knock out Liam Williams and you didn't knock him out or whatever. And then he was like, well, no, he busted up his hand in the second round. And Chris was like, no, I didn't do that. I just decided to box. Like, you know, don't start spreading rumors. And I was like, wait a minute, so you and your promoter aren't even on the same page as to what happened in that fight? Because I'm sure Chris said at one point that he hurt his hand, or someone said, like, in the post fights and that, yeah, hurt my hand, you know, so like I didn't throw it as much or whatever. Or someone else was saying, yeah, he hurt his hand, but Chris is like, no, the hand was fine. But if that's the case, then that's actually more of a damning indictment as to your current ability, because you had Liam Williams down for the count, ready to go from round 1, 2 and 3, and you couldn't get him out of there. So now, if they do the same thing with Conor Benn, what happens? Because ultimately, Conor Benn is defensively more responsible than Liam Williams. He's more elusive, he's better technically at this stage, and he's more explosive. So if you go into that same full sense of security, like, what happens then? Maybe you get clipped with something, and now that your resistance might be, you know, it might be a bit shaky because you've had to drain some of the protection, some of the nutrients and stuff that you're used to having in your body, not being able to get them back the next day. Maybe you start to falter a little bit in the middle to end of that fight. But that's something we can look at later on down the line. Ultimately, I thought the press conference was highly entertaining. I feel bad for anyone who obviously wanted tickets, who didn't get them. You know, G-Chain, I know he was in our group chat going mad, blaming Eddie Hearn. That's a story for another day. but hopefully, yeah, everyone's just gonna have to make do with the zone pay-per-view, and I'm sure we're gonna have a big watch along with the undefeated team, so you can look out for that, and we'll kind of see where we get to. But yeah, ultimately that was my highlight on Friday, and let's see where we move you know, in the future with that one. Now also, what took place, is it late Friday, early Saturday? It was a bit of good news, I suppose. Tyson Fury has officially relinquished the Ring Magazine title after proclaiming his retirement for the third time on Friday. On his, I think it was his 34th birthday that day. So he said, yep, I'm fully done now. No Derek Chisora trilogy, no AJ fight, no Usyk fight, I'm done. And then he relinquished the belt on Saturday. Mauricio Sulaiman said he's sent him a letter. He's got 2 weeks to respond as to whether he's going to relinquish the WBC also. Now, on one hand, yes, it sounds like good news. But on the other, I've got a suspicion, right? So he hasn't relinquished the WBC as of right now, and Mauricio Sulaiman hasn't ordered him to do so, or since he's actually pronounced his retirement officially for a second time, he hasn't made him champion emeritus and vacated the title. All of this is happening just before the AJ fight. Here's my theory. Relinquishing the Ring Magazine title ultimately means nothing, to be fair. You might say you're relinquishing the lineal status as well, but it means nothing because it's not actually a belt you can just win. Like, you can't just, you know, be sanctioned to fight for it. Once you're in their rankings, the person who has it's on the line there, and then when it goes vacant, the number 1 and the number 2 in the division will fight for it. But if number 1 and number 2 never get together to fight for it, or 1 and 3, then it just remains vacant until it gets attached to like the biggest fight in that particular weight class. So my thought is, well, he said before he's the only 2-time lineal champion that's never lost a fight, right? Well, AJ's trying to go for 3-time world champion, because there's only ever been three-time world champions, and there's only ever been one person that's won the belt 4 times, which is Evander Holyfield. But there's never been a 3-time Ring Magazine lineal champion that's been undefeated. So what better way to now have this fight play out? A month goes by, you get bored, come out of this quote-unquote retirement, challenge the winner for that lineal status, because that's all he ever claims that he wants, right? I'm the lineal champ, I don't care about the belts, they mean nothing, I'm the man to be the man, you gotta beat the man, etc. And I did that. So he comes out of retirement to face the winner, to potentially now be able to say he's a 3-time Ring Magazine and lineal champion that's never ever been defeated, and he's the only man in history to do that. I think that's what he's after at this point. And the fact he hasn't given up the WBC belt at this time means that he's still keeping himself very sort of highly ranked within in sort of all contentions. So he's got a belt, he's still got a belt to bring to the table. But the lineal status is what he cares about the most. So that's what I think is happening personally. He's not actually retired, or he is retired in that sense, just so the lineal status gets vacated and goes to someone else, and then he comes back in to try and claim it for the 3rd time, to say, I'm the only man in history that's done this. It's never been done and it will never be done again. That's my thoughts. That being said, the Ring Magazine title is now on the line in the fight between Alexander Usyk and Anthony Joshua, which makes sense because they are the number 1 and number 2 ranked on the Ring Magazine rankings. So it makes perfect sense, and the next one of them will actually now be the Ring Magazine champion. The other one will probably drop to maybe 3 or 4 on those rankings, and whoever's underneath will sort of come up. But here's where my next theory sort of comes into play. So Mauricio Sulaiman says that he's gonna do this celebration for Tyson Fury, and he's given him the 2 weeks. Personally, from he said that he's retired, bear in mind this is the second time he said that since April, when the Dillian Whyte fight happened. If I was Mauricio Sulaiman, I would just make Tyson Fury right now champion emeritus, yeah? And then put the vacant WBC title on the line in this fight in Saudi Arabia. I mean, look, the WBC love nothing more than attaching themselves to, you know, big, massive events, yeah? Well, what's bigger than 87 or 90 million dollars worth of a fight? You put your title on the line there, you can imagine the sanctioning fees, you get 3%. I think it's like 3% of the purse. Now, my maths ain't really the greatest, but anyone in the comments will know that you're looking at least a couple million in sanctioning fees based off of that fight. Or at least near, like, to sort of 2 mil. Easy. So with that being said, it's like that makes perfect sense. Why would you not do that? Make it for undisputed, and then you can, if you want, you can immediately set a mandatory. They probably won't take the mandatory. You can then strip them, put the title on the line in your next fight, and then you've got another set of sanctioning fees. But at that point, you've got the one thing that you claimed you wanted, which was an undisputed champion. To me, that makes the perfect sense. However, there's a third part to this story. Because Deontay Wilder is still ranked as number 1 in the WBC, Joe Joyce is number 2. But Deontay Wilder supposedly is fighting Robert Helenius in October or early November, somewhere around there, yeah? Well, why would Deontay Wilder still be ranked as number 1 when hasn't won a fight in 3 years? Well, so you could say, well, maybe it's some PBC shenanigans or whatever, but ultimately, the last reigning champion, he had the belt for what, over 5 years as a champion, made 11 defenses or whatever it was of the belt. He's ranked number 1. Tyson Fury he supposedly vacates the belt after 2 weeks or whatever, still probably being made champion emeritus, and then if he wants to come out of retirement, he gets the right to challenge for the title again. But guess what? All of a sudden now that belt, the vacant title, goes on the line against Wilder and Helenius. Deontay Wilder gets that belt back, gets to be a two-time WBC champion. I mean, you would say, oh, you can go for undisputed after that, but realistically, it probably would just be held up again in America over on PBC Island as it was previously. You have a fight with him and Andy Ruiz, provided he gets past Luis Ortiz. Then you fight whoever else you can find in America after that. You've now got another belt that stays on the US side of things, because ultimately the other 3 belts, everyone that's in prime position for them are UK and European based. So America needs a champion, right? The narrative is there, and is very credible and feasible in my mind, to be totally honest. Again, this is all speculation. I've got nothing to back it up on, it's just based on past, past issues, past dealings and past scenarios that I've seen play out from the WBC. So yeah, I'm gonna leave the speculations alone for the time being, and I'm probably gonna leave that one there, but don't be surprised if any one of those 3 things happens moving forward. But again, at least it's good that we can now crown a new sort of Ring Magazine champ, and hopefully that does yield better results moving forward, and hopefully my theories are all busted by the end of next week also, and we managed to get that undisputed happen before the mandatories start piling up, because they're coming. But okay, I'm gonna leave that one there. Please leave your comments down below. Let me know if you've got any wild theories or speculations that you expect to happen over the next sort of 2-3 weeks, month and a bit. I'm keen to see if anyone sort of agrees with me, or if you disagree, why do you disagree? Let me know what your thoughts and feelings on the situation is, and yeah, we'd sort of take it from there. But as always, thank you very much for watching, and for right now, Hardcore Casual out.